Hey, I'm Sherry McGill, and you're watching Lessons Learned. So today I'm going to get started on the after quilt of the honeybee bear paw quilt that I made a few weeks ago. And here's what that was like. This is a very large bed-size quilt, and I put together several bear paw squares. Let me show you the borders, and I just kind of did a configuration of my own on this quilt, and I was trying to use up as much of my materials as I could without much waste. Now, I had already bought a panel in this line as well, and this is called the Buzzworthy design for canvas and Benartex. So if you're looking for that particular line of fabrics, and then this is what the panel looks like basically. And it is, let me get a measurement for you. It is 23 and a quarter, something like that, by, I'm measuring on my thing here, 45. So my idea to use up the rest of my Buzzworthy fabric is to put a piano key border all the way around this to finish it off. And I am going to leave this black on here. I may trim it down a little bit. The top has the selvages on it, so I'll definitely be trimming that off, but I think I will leave the little black border, as much of that as I can, to add my piano key border onto. Now, piano key border, if you don't know, is a series of strips that you sew together like this. And so on. So I'd sew all of these together first, and then once I have a long enough strip to go around all four sides of the panel, then I can sew it onto this black border here. And then I can finish it with something else, make it just a little bit bigger, or I can just go ahead and put my binding on right here after I add my batting and backing to it and quilt it. So my criteria that I have for the piano key border is varying widths of strips that are 5 inches long. So all of these strips are 5 inches long. Now I had quite a bit left over of a layer cake, and I'm holding back these because I don't know if I've cut enough or not. And if I have cut plenty and I have these left over, then I still have more fabric I could use for the backing, and that's my hope. But I don't know if I have enough cut yet. I had some scraps that were just too small that I won't be able to use in this project, so it's impossible to use 100% of all your fabrics nearly. There are some quilt patterns that you could do that with, but this is not one of them. So let me go ahead and get these sewn together, and I'll take you over by the sewing machine so you can see me do that. Right sides together and sew down one long side. I'm using my 1/4 inch foot. And what I can do is just go through and randomly chain stitch a lot of these pairs together, and that will save some time. And then I'll have to go through and sew my pairs together and so forth. Once you get close to the end of your stack, you have to kind of take inventory of what you have left and figure out what goes together. I've been putting light and medium with dark. So I'm down to my last 4 here. And either I have way too many or I'm still short quite a bit. If I am still short, it looks like I need to cut some dark pieces. We'll see. Now I'm going to sew pairs together, and I'm going to pay attention to my dark squares and make sure I have a light or a medium. So here's my first 2 that I picked up. I'm going to arrange them like this and sew this together. Whoops. Anyway, I'm cutting these pairs apart, and this is what you get. So now I'm going to go through and put the 4s together, and eventually, after doing that many times, I'm going to wind up with a super long strip, and I hope it is the size of the perimeter of my panel. Okay, so here we are with the piano key border pieces finished. I haven't trimmed them or ironed them down yet. I'm getting ready to, oh, and by the way, I made probably twice as much as I needed, but I will use the extra either on the back, or I'm not sure yet, but we'll use those eventually. Even if not on this project, we'll use them eventually. So I'm one step ahead of the game on something. Anyway, I'm getting ready to cut this panel down, cut the selvage off, and I like the way that looked with as much of this black as possible. Sometimes when you get a panel, this very outermost design, sometimes you just want to cut it off. And, you know, you can and just start with yellow. But I like the way that black frame was in there, so I'm going to leave as much of that as possible. So I'm just going to go ahead and get this as straight as possible so that I can preserve as much of it as I can. And I haven't steamed this or anything, but I do want to get that edge of that selvage right under that ruler. And even if I still happen to catch a little bit of the white, it will be in the seam allowance of the border. So the main thing is I want it to be square, and when I take it over and really steam it well, I can work on that squareness of it too. So I'm just going to hold that down and cut that off. There we go. And I do have a little bitty bit of white there. It's okay. It's not going to be shown. And then I have one down here at the bottom as well. Okay. This one's not as crooked as the top one. Just going to go with that. Okay. And then on my sides, I think I'm just going to fold this and see how crooked it is, if at all. Because sometimes when they're cut out at the shop or wherever you got it from, they're cut a little crooked, so you'd have to straighten that up. One thing I'm seeing right away is this edge right here is much, right here, about that span, is much smaller than the rest of it. So we're going to have to go down a little bit on this. So let me measure and see what that is. And we're going to have to go down to that much. It looks to be about an inch. Let me get a more precise ruler. It looks to be about 5/8 of an inch. So that's what I'm going to have to go with all the way around this. And it's probably to my advantage to not fold it but open it and do it a little at a time. So little bit tedious here. I'm gonna end up losing more than I really wanted of the black, but we'll still have a nice black border. So 5/8 is right about there. And this is going to be very difficult to get straight. Sometimes you can do a little stretch on the bias to straighten things out. It's pretty close. 5/8. Right there. I can see another line on my ruler that will fit between here and here on that little black line. So if I can get that to run down through there equally, I'll be able to make a more accurate cut for the edge. I know we're getting down into like 8s here, but you don't want your project to be crooked. I just want to make sure I'm on the same one all the way down. Just kind of hold some pressure on your big ruler and get it lined up based on a starting point. And I'm, like I said, I'm using that little first tiny black line there, and there's some yellow lines on my ruler that's going right down through there. That's going to end up leaving me 5/8 of an inch of black on this outer border. Well, there's that much of it. Okay. See if I can manage that again. Okay, I see my little lines on that tiny black strip there. Just making it line up. Okay. Not bad. Normally I probably would not fuss this much, but you know, a black border will tell on you, just like a white one will if you're not straight. So before I forget what I was using as a measuring line, I'm going to do the other long side. Okay, that looks really good. Okay, so we are good to go to add to our edges now. So I'll be right back. I'm going to iron out the strips, the piano key strips, and these are the ones that I'm going to use. So I'll be right back with that. Okay, I got these ironed down flat. I just ironed them all in one direction. Not my favorite thing to do. I usually like to press my seams open, but there are a million of them. I'm not going to do it today. Okay, so to make my life a little easier, I'm going to take each one of these and trim them a little bit. There's a little bit of up and down here and there on the edges, so I'm just going to kind of straighten those up. And I'm going to try to take off less than 1/4 of an inch of each strip off of each edge. Hopefully I can accomplish that. You're not supposed to use your lines on your mat to do such a thing, but that's what I'm going to do today. Sorry if that offends you. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and take, I actually have 2 long pieces and one little bit shorter piece. So I may be able to use the shorter piece for the top. But what I need to decide is do I want to put the sides on first, or do I want to put the top on first? Let's see how it would look. Just do a little audition here. So there would be top last. I don't know if that's going to really tell me. Let's try it this full way here. Like that. Or should I do it like this? I'm thinking it's 6 of one and 6 of another. Don't even talk to me about mitering. I'm not going to miter nothing. Yeah, I think I like the shorter. I think that like the top first and then the end. So let's do it that way. So let me go ahead and sew on my first top piece. Now, one thing I want to mention is the reason that I did several different widths on this was so that I could cut this off evenly and not have to worry about the width being correct. There's another YouTuber, her name is April Story, and one day I was watching her do this very thing on the outside of a panel, and I noticed that she had bigger and smaller widths of piano keys, which if you think of a piano keyboard, you have 2 different widths of keys. So that makes it to where you don't have to come out exact on your borders. And so, you know, I can start out even here, putting this one on, and then coming back and starting this way. But when I get to the bottom, it's not going to be hitting exactly at a width unless I had done some very complicated math, which I was not up to that. So yeah, I'll be able to just trim these off as I put them on, and the fact that these vary in width makes it okay to cut it off right on the edge no matter where it lands. So I'm going to go do that now. I'm going to take a 1/4 inch seam, and we decided to do the top ones first, and I'm just going to sew this down through here. And as a matter of fact, I think I'm going to let it hang over a little bit, because if I don't, then I'm going to wind up right on the edge of the stitching on one of the joins here. So see how that gives you flexibility with your placement? You don't have to be so precise with it. So that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to do, I think I'm going to sew on this part. I don't know that it really matters. I'm not sure. Let me see. I think this edge is a little bit straighter. See how that looks. Yeah, that'd be fine. I don't know. I like the other end better. I don't want to get to looking at it too much, or I'll second guess myself. It doesn't matter. I'm just going to go over there and start sewing. Okay, so now I want to show you how this turned out as far as where it ended up. I did go over there and press this towards this little black inner border here. So what I want to do is take my little 4x8, or I even could take a larger one, and I think I'll do my 4x8 so I can hold on to it better. It's at a little bit of a wonky position here. So when I cut this, I want it to come out even. So I want to use the marks on this ruler to get it to come out square. And that looks about right there. And see, no sweat that this is smaller, because I have small ones, I have large ones, I have medium ones, and there's a nice variety of sizes in this that you don't really notice. Now I have one over here. I started my seam a little off the edge as well, so that I could get a good trim here on this. So let's see here. Looks like it's going to be about like that. These rulers, you know, we have all of these markings on these rulers all the way down to 1/8, sometimes 1/16 of an inch. And this is when you use them. You can use them to straighten up these seams, and like I did on the edge of the panel, that's a good time to really use them, so that you can get a good square edge here and not have a cut off edge, or one's different from another and that sort of thing. So there we go. So I'm going to do that same thing on the bottom, and then I'm going to put the sides on, and then I'll come back and show you how that turned out. All right, so there's our top left corner done. Turned out pretty nice. I'm loving it. I really am. So I'm not going to bore you with the other side here. I'll go ahead and get that put on. And stay tuned for part 2. And we'll either be putting another little border on, or we will be putting our batting and backing on with a binding. So stay tuned and see what I do. Everything's a mystery around here. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope it helps you in some way or another. And I look forward to seeing you on the next one. Thanks. Bye.